Hello, I'm Jen. Welcome back to my channel, Literary Love 123, where I combine my master's in English with my passion for the horror genre to talk about the books that I read. So today's video is a vlog, and it is a vlog for the Week of Weird. The Week of Weird is hosted by Crystal at Fiber Artsy and Jason at Jason's Weird Reads, and I will link their channels down below. So today is September 15th, which kicks off the Week of Weird, and it goes through September 21st. So I'm just going to briefly go over the books I'm going to read in this intro, and I will talk more about each of them as I get to them throughout the vlog. So, the first prompt for the Week of Weird is to read a cosmic horror story or book. So I have chosen to reread my favorite book of all time, and that is The Fisherman by John Langan. I'm excited, but I'm also nervous to reread this book since it is my favorite. I'm kind of scared. What if it doesn't hit me the same and it falls from the top spot? I don't really think that's going to happen, but I'm a little bit nervous about it. The second one is to read a weird graphic novel, manga, or comic. So for this one, I have chosen to read the first volume of Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees by Patrick Horvath. And this one has been described as Dexter meets Richard Scarry's Busy Town. So I think that fits into the weird category. Number three is to read a story or book written by an LGBTQIA plus author. And I'm also doing a reread for this one. And I'm going to be rereading Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke by Eric LaRocca, which I read years ago, and I absolutely loved this twisted story. Now, I may or may not get to the other stories in this collection. We'll see, but I'm definitely going to be getting to my reread of Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. And the final prompt is the group read. And the group read is The Weirdest World by R.A. Lafferty. That's a very short story, and I am going to read that for the group read because, first of all, it sounds like a really fun story. And as I mentioned, I'll talk about it as I get to it, but then it's really short too, so it should be easy to fit in. So that's all for the intro right now, and I will see you in the next check in. Bye. Hello, it's day 2 of the Week of Weird. I did not check in last night. I was too tired, but I am about 3/4 of the way through my reread of Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke by Eric LaRocca. And I'm trying to think about how I can talk about Things Have Gotten Worse since we last spoke. Since it's a reread, this is the first time I've vlogged a reread, I think, maybe. But this story is kind of hard to explain. You have Agnes, who is selling a vintage apple peeler, which I will pop up the image I found. And if you know this story, then are you as icked out as I am by this image? Anyway, so Agnes is selling on queerlist.org a vintage apple peeler, and Zoe responds that she's interested in purchasing the apple peeler. But then they kind of develop this relationship, through emails and then instant messages. The story is set in like 2000, so that's why you have like some of the older kind of communication that people would have done back then. And they developed this obsession. Really, as I was going back in my reread, Agnes is the first one to really kind of develop a sort of obsession with Zoe. She starts messaging her, asking her, what she's doing, what she's eating, if she's seeing someone. And then I would say Zoe takes advantage of this and starts convincing Agnes to do these things that Agnes would not normally do, under this pretext of something that Zoe's father would ask her every day. What have you done today to deserve your eyes? So she has Agnes do things initially like wear a bright red dress and bright red lipstick to work, which is not really appropriate work attire where Agnes works. So it starts off just sort of encouraging Agnes to be bold in her choices, but then it devolves into Zoe having Agnes do more and more sinister, disgusting things. Um, so that's really all I can say about it. So my plans for today are to finish reading Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. And then next, I'm going to go ahead and read Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, because I kind of want something lighter. I don't know. It's, like I said, it's compared to Dexter meets Richard Scarry's Busy Town. So I don't know. It's a comic. Maybe it'll be fun. So that's about all my plans for today because my daughter is home from school. Today is a teacher work day. So I'm not going to try to put a lot of pressure on myself to do a lot of things. And that's about, like I said, all I have for now. And I will check back in when I have something else to say. Hello, it is day 3 of the week of weird. And since I checked in last time, I have finished 2 readings for my TBR. I finished reading just the story in this collection, Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. And I also read and finished volume 1 of Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. It's very short. So let me talk a little bit, first of all, about my thoughts on my reread of Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. Now, initially, the first time I read this story, I was super blown away and gave it 5 stars. And I'm going to stick with that 5 stars because I really think it's on me. As a as I reread this story, it didn't have quite the same impact. But again, that's because I think, anyway, that it is a reread. So I already knew what was coming. The story is still disturbing. But one of the things that I really didn't remember is how abruptly the story ends. And I felt like some things weren't really tied up nicely, but maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. I'm not sure, but I did still enjoy it. But it just wasn't as impactful as it was the first time. But I would still recommend Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. I can't really speak for any of the other stories in this collection, so I won't. So now let me talk about Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. I don't really feel like I can say a lot about it since it is so short and I just read volume 1. I definitely see how it's compared to Dexter meets Richard Scarry's Busy Town, because we do have this very cute, cozy character who is a serial killer. And it's kind of funny because the serial killer animal character is doing all of these self-care things like a nice bath, lighting incense. It's very cozy. But then you get to points where it's very disturbing and quite shocking, especially to see these cozy little animal characters in these positions. So I definitely will be continuing in that series. I do think it's a lot of fun, and like I said, it's a short, quick read. So today I will be reading the group read for this. The what was it? The Weirdest World by R.A. Lafferty. Other than that, I've got a few errands to run. I need to do some planning for classes that I'll be teaching later on this week. I will see you in my next check in. Bye. Hello, it's day 4 of the week of weird. So I wanted to check in and talk about what I've done since the last time I checked in with you. So I did read and finish The Weirdest World by R.A. Lafferty, which is the group read. This is a very short science fiction story that was published in the 1960s, and you can read it for free at Project Gutenberg, which is what I did. And it is a very strange story. So I don't want to say a lot because of how short it is, and then because it is so weird. But there is an alien who is put off of his ship, and he's placed on this planet that is quite strange to him. He describes the creatures that he sees, the experiences that he has, and even though this is a strange little story, it did have a lot to say about the absurdity of existence. What is the point? Why are we here? It also had a lot to say about perspective, how something that is strange to this alien would be very commonplace. It would be something that we on Earth wouldn't even think about. Also, it had a lot to say about personhood. What makes someone a person? What makes someone deserving of compassion and love and the right to own property? Those kinds of things. And then it had something to say also about the human condition. So I found a lot to unpack in this short little story, and I highly, highly recommend it. I started my reread last night of my favorite book of all time, The Fisherman by John Langan. I only got 3 pages in because I had some other stuff that I had to do last night, but I'm already reminded of why I fell in love with this book and with John Langan's writing. On page 3, he asked this question, or I guess the main character of our story asked this question: can a story haunt you? Can a story possess you? So I'm going to be keeping that in mind as I go through the novel this time. That's really all I have to say right now. I will see you in my next check in. Bye. Hello, it's Friday, September 20th. It is day 6 of the week of Weird. Tomorrow is the last day. I did not check in yesterday. I had classes to teach, and so I had a busy day and I was just tired. But I have made it to page 159 of 263 in my reread of The Fisherman. And I'm happy to report that I love it just as much as I did the first time I read it. And now, because I know how it's going to conclude, I feel like I can really take my time and sink my teeth into the meat in this novel because John Langan just does so much here. I didn't even tell you what it's about in my last check in. I realized that. So we follow Abe, who is a widower. And after his wife dies, he gets this, just this compelling feeling that he needs to go fishing. And he talks about how he hasn't been fishing since he was a child and he'd go with his father sometimes. But he just wakes up with this, innate desire to fish. And he talks about how fishing kind of saved his life. However, fishing also ends up almost taking his life from him. I can't really say a lot is cosmic horror, but it definitely has like some folk horror elements to it too. Um, Abe does befriend a younger widower, and that widower ends up going fishing with Abe too. And so they're dealing with the grief over their loss, even though both of them lost their wives. Without giving anything away, I will say it is in significantly different ways that their wives died. So there's commentary there about different kinds of grief. Um, there is more to Dan, the young widower's story, but I don't want to talk about that because I think that would give away too much. If you are familiar with Washington Irving's Rip Van Winkle and the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, you can definitely tell there's some influence here because it does take place in like the Hudson Valley, the Catskill Mountains area. So John Langan kind of weaves his own folkloric stories into The Fisherman. You have so much going on. I am not describing it in the best way. I don't know. I don't know. It's just my favorite book. I love it. But there's just so much here. I know I keep saying that, but it is a tale that is told also in a frame narrative again, very much like the tradition of Washington Irving with the Legend of Sleepy Hollow and Rip Van Winkle. These stories that are told from one person to another. So another person telling the story is like, well, I heard this story from this person. So I don't know how John Langan does this, but it's just fabulous. In the middle of the main story about Abe and Dan, we get a backstory about the Dutchman's Creek area, which is where Dan and Abe take a fishing trip at some point in the book. And this backstory just is full of lore and just rich detail. Like the visuals in this story are incredible. I just don't know. I just don't know what else I can say about it. I'm gonna try really hard when I finish tomorrow and do my final wrap up of the week of Weird to maybe, explain it a little bit better. But it's just as good as it was before, and I believe it's gonna remain my favorite book of all time. So I am gonna go for now. I need to go get my coffee And I will check back in with you tomorrow and conclude the week of weird. See you in the next check-in. Bye. Hello, it's day 7, the final day in the week of weird. I finished my reread of The Fisherman by John Langan last night, and it is most definitely still my favorite book of all time. I am trying to think of how to talk about this book today. I kind of rambled on yesterday, and I feel like I'll do the same thing today because I don't know. It's like I said, when you love something so much, you just love it. Again, I want to talk about just how John Langan can weave a story. He is a masterful storyteller. He pulls in folklore, as I mentioned before, mythology. I would say that I firmly believe this will be a classic one day. I would put it right up there with Washington Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow and Rip Van Winkle. I would put it way, way above cosmic horror Lovecraft level. I would say this far surpasses H.P. Lovecraft. And the end is shocking too. It's just beautifully written, and there's this twist at the end, but it is not a twist that is unearned. It is definitely earned, definitely makes sense within the context of the rest of the story. It's terrifying, but it is just so damn good. So I don't know what else to tell you, but I think you should read The Fisherman if you haven't yet. And if you don't love it, please don't tell me no. Just kidding. I just want to say thank you so much for watching this vlog. I want to give another shout out to the Week of Weird creators and host, Jason at Jason's Weird Reads, Crystal at Fiber Artsy, who I will link their channels down in the description box below. I hope you enjoyed your week of weird if you participated. If not, keep a heads up because it will happen again. I just want to say if you like this video, I would definitely appreciate it if you would hit like and subscribe and hit that bell so you won't miss a video from me. Thank you for watching. Stay weird, everybody. Bye.